Sunrise painted the suburban cul-de-sac in shades of amber and gold, revealing a neighborhood still wrapped in morning quiet. Tom Matthews performed his daily inspection of the front garden, steaming coffee mug in hand while Mittens' 15-year-old gray tabby conducted her own perimeter check with military precision. Despite her advanced age and arthritis, the cat moved with calculated purpose, pausing at strategic points to analyze scents and sounds imperceptible to human detection. Another reconnaissance mission complete, soldier? Tom sipped his coffee, watching as Mittens executed her standard morning protocol. Garden check, fence line inspection, strategic positioning under the bird feeder. The routine never varied, a remnant from younger days when the tabby controlled a territory spanning 3 backyards with ruthless efficiency. Across the street, movement caught Tom's attention. Sarah Wilson, new to the neighborhood as of 3 months prior, emerged from her craftsman-style home, followed by a Labrador retriever whose swollen belly signaled imminent delivery. The pregnant dog moved with the awkward determination of late-term pregnancy, her daily patrol of the front yard now more waddle than walk. "Morning, Tom." Sarah waved, her voice carrying across the quiet street. "Daisy's getting close now." "Vet. Says any day." Tom nodded, raising his mug in acknowledgement. "Mittens and I will stay on high alert," he called back, a standard response to neighborhood updates. At 15, Mittens had long retired from territorial disputes, now content with observational status and strategic napping positions. 3 days later, the neighborhood dynamic shifted dramatically. Tom's phone buzzed at 6:37 a.m., Sarah's name flashing on the screen. "The puppies came last night," she announced, voice tinged with exhaustion and joy. 6 perfect little labs. Daisy did great. The next 72 hours established new patterns in the neighborhood ecosystem. Sarah's house became a hub of controlled activity, friends visiting, the veterinarian making house calls, deliveries of puppy supplies, creating a steady rhythm of comings and goings. Through it all, Tom noticed Mittens maintaining unusual surveillance. From various vantage points around his property, her attention fixed on Sarah's house with unexpected intensity. "Getting nostalgic for your kitten days?" Tom asked, finding the elderly cat positioned on the windowsill, eyes locked on the house across the street. Mittens' tail twitched in a pattern Tom recognized from her hunting years, a tactical response to potential prey assessment. On day 7, the neighborhood routine fractured. Tom's morning coffee was interrupted by frantic knocking. Opening his door revealed Sarah, still in pajamas, hair uncombed, expression oscillating between panic and confusion. "One of the puppies is missing," she stated without preamble. "Just gone. Disappeared sometime during the night." Tom set his mug down, shifting immediately to organized response mode. "Have you checked the entire house? Could it have wandered off?" "They're too young to walk more than a foot or two," Sarah explained, anxiety elevating her voice. "They can barely crawl. And the back door was locked, doggy door secured. There's no way Daisy could have moved one." Tom conducted a systematic inspection of Sarah's property while she called the local animal control. The remaining 5 puppies, tiny black bundles with eyes still closed, remained clustered around Daisy in their whelping box. No signs of disturbance, no forced entry points identified, no evidence of predators. "Could someone have taken it?" Tom asked, completing his assessment of potential entry vectors. Sarah's security system showed no breaches, all doors and windows secured throughout the night. The only anomaly, a brief motion alert at 2:17 a.m., but the camera captured only a shadow moving across the back porch, too small for human identification, too fast for clear imaging. Returning home, Tom found Mittens in uncharacteristic repose, curled in her bed despite the morning sun having reached her favorite window perch. The cat's eyes, half-lidded but watchful, tracked Tom's movements with unusual attention. Something about her position's stillness triggered Tom's analytical Instincts developed through decades of pattern recognition. "Where have you been this morning, old girl?" he asked, noting a small burr caught in Mittens' tail fur. Specifically, vegetation that didn't match any plants in his garden. The cat responded with a slow blink, revealing nothing, maintaining operational security with practiced discipline. That night, Tom reviewed Sarah's security footage again on his laptop, frame by frame. The moving shadow initially dismissed as insignificant revealed subtle details under enhanced scrutiny. The fluid movement pattern of a quadruped, approximate size consistent with a medium feline. Trajectory indicating purposeful rather than random movement. Outside, the neighborhood safety lights cast long shadows across manicured lawns. In Tom's living room, Mittens watched the darkness beyond the window, tail twitching in tactical anticipation, waiting for optimal deployment conditions while her owner remained distracted by digital evidence that wouldn't yield its secrets until morning. The perfect neighborhood had experienced its first security breach with no suspects, no witnesses, and most disturbing of all, no trace of the missing puppy. Only Mittens, from her strategic observation post, understood the full operational picture information she had no intention of compromising. Morning light filtered through Sarah's kitchen window as she frantically dialed Tom's number, her voice breaking with each ring. "Another one's gone, Tom. That's 2 puppies now." Tom held the phone away from his ear, the desperation in his neighbor's voice cutting through the early hour fog in his brain. Across the room, his elderly cat, Mittens, lounged on the windowsill, orange and white fur catching the sunlight, looking impossibly innocent for a 15-year-old feline with arthritis. "I'll be right over," Tom promised, eyeing Mittens suspiciously. The cat had returned unusually late last night, something that had become a pattern over the past week. Tom had dismissed it as ordinary cat behavior. Mittens had always been independent, but now that a second puppy was missing, something felt off. Sarah's backyard had become a crime scene of sorts. 3 police officers surveyed the area while Sarah stood by the puppy pen, counting the remaining Labrador puppies over and over, as if one might magically reappear. 5 down to 3, she whispered as Tom approached. "The police think someone is stealing them to resell. Purebred labs. Can go for thousands." Officer Jenkins shook his head as he examined the property's perimeter. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, nothing on the basic security camera except some motion blur at 217 M. He pointed to the puppy pen's gate. Lock wasn't broken either. Someone has a key or these puppies are learning to unlatch gates. Tom knelt to examine the pen. The craftsmanship was solid. Sarah had spared no expense to keep her prized Labradors litter safe and comfortable. Could a wild animal have gotten in? He asked, though the absence of any struggle made that unlikely. "Not without leaving some evidence," Jenkins replied. "Whatever took these puppies did it clean, quiet, and knew exactly what they were doing." The remaining puppies tumbled around their mother, Daisy, who watched the humans with worried eyes, as if she understood something precious was missing. Tom felt a pang of sympathy for the mother dog. Then a thought unwelcome and unsettling crept into his mind. Mittens had been acting strangely lately. Not just the late-night returns, but the satisfied expression when she came home, like a hunter returning with prey. But Tom immediately dismissed the thought. Mittens was 15 years old with arthritis that made climbing the stairs difficult on rainy days. There was no way his elderly cat was scaling fences, unlatching gates, and carrying off puppies that would each weigh almost as much as she did. "I'm installing better security tonight," Sarah said, interrupting Tom's thoughts. "High definition. Cameras with night vision, motion-activated floodlights, the works. I'm not losing another puppy." Word spread quickly through Maple Street. By afternoon, a neighborhood watch group had formed on the community message board. Theories ranged from professional dog thieves, coyotes, to teenagers pulling pranks. Nobody mentioned cats. Later that evening, Tom watched Mittens through narrowed eyes as she performed her nightly grooming ritual. "You've been staying out late," he said, feeling slightly ridiculous talking to his cat like a teenager who'd missed curfew. Mittens paused mid-lick, yellow eyes meeting his own with that inscrutable feline gaze, before dismissively returning to her paw. Just after midnight, Tom heard the familiar soft thud of the cat door. Mittens was leaving again. From his darkened living room window, Tom watched his elderly, arthritic cat move across the lawn with surprising grace before disappearing over the fence that separated his property from Sarah's. "No way," Tom muttered, grabbing a flashlight. By the time he'd pulled on shoes and made it to his backyard, Mittens was nowhere to be seen. The night was quiet, except for the distant sound of a car alarm and the usual symphony of suburban wildlife. Tom's phone buzzed in his pocket. An alert from the neighborhood watch group. "Everyone check your yards. Another puppy is missing," and Sarah's new security camera captured something interesting. Minutes later, Tom's phone screen displayed a grainy night vision image that Sarah had shared. The timestamp read 2:43 a.m. The image quality was still poor, but there was no mistaking the silhouette of a cat perched on the edge of the puppy pen, looking down at the sleeping puppies with unmistakable intent. Tom felt his stomach drop as he realized Sarah would be reviewing better footage, soon footage that might clearly show his sweet, elderly Mittens in the act of puppy napping. He looked out into the darkness of his backyard, wondering where his cat might be at this very moment, and what possible reason a geriatric feline could have for stealing puppies in the night. Across the street, Sarah's newly installed floodlights suddenly blazed to life, illuminating her backyard like a stadium. Tom heard her voice cry out, "I see you, stop right there," followed by the sound of a door slamming. The neighborhood watch was about to get a lot more interesting, and Tom had the sinking feeling that his innocent-looking Mittens was at the center of it all. The security monitor bathed Tom's face in blue light as he reviewed the footage for the third time. Hours of scanning through nighttime recordings had yielded nothing until now. The timestamp read 2:37 a.m. when a shadow moved across Sarah's back porch. Tom leaned forward, fingers adjusting the brightness. "There," he muttered, eyes narrowing, as a familiar feline form emerged from the darkness. Mittens, his 15-year-old tabby with the distinctive white paws, moved with surprising precision across the yard. The arthritis that usually slowed her morning stretches seemed non-existent as she navigated through the sensor light's blind spots. Sarah paced behind him, arms folded tight against her chest. "Is that really your cat? That can't be possible." Her voice carried the strain of 2 sleepless nights. 2 missing puppies had transformed her excitement about the new litter into mounting dread. The footage continued, revealing what Tom had refused to believe. Mittens approached the doggy door with practiced stealth, testing it with one paw before slipping inside. 3 minutes and 46 seconds later, the elderly cat emerged, gently carrying a squirming puppy by the scruff. "Unbelievable," Tom whispered, watching his geriatric cat move with the calculated efficiency of a special operations tactician. Mittens paused at the property line, adjusted her grip on the puppy, then disappeared into the shadows between houses. Sarah dropped into the chair beside him. "How is that even physically possible? That puppy weighs almost as much as your cat." Her fingers gripped the edge of the desk, knuckles white. "Where is she taking them?" Tom rewound the footage, studying Mittens' exit route. The cat had chosen the darkest path between properties, avoiding motion sensor lights with suspicious familiarity. Years of feeding this supposedly innocent house cat suddenly cast in a new light. "I've never seen her move like that," Tom admitted, pausing the frame where Mittens delicately readjusted her grip on the puppy. The vet said her arthritis was getting worse, not better. Officer Jenkins clicked his pen, adding notes to his increasingly unusual case file. First time in 15 years I've documented a cat as a suspect. His expression remained professional despite the circumstances. Any idea where she might be taking them? Tom shook his head, embarrassment mixing with disbelief. His sweet, lazy Mittens, the cat who needed help climbing onto the couch, had somehow transformed into a master puppy thief. "I'll keep her locked indoors tonight," Tom promised, watching the footage loop again. On screen, Mittens executed another perfect extraction, the puppy secure in her careful grip. "You have my word." Sarah nodded, eyes fixed on the screen. "They're not just any puppies to me, Tom. Their mother is my service dog for 8 years already." Across town, Dr. Melissa Chen received the footage on her tablet. The animal behaviorist studied the cat's movements, sending her assessment to Officer Jenkins. Subject demonstrates purposeful behavior consistent with planned action, not predatory. "Instinct," she typed. "Note careful handling of puppy, no bite marks or trauma." This indicates goal-oriented behavior rather than hunting. Back at Tom's house, Mittens watched from her bed as he installed new locks on the windows. Her green eyes tracked his movements with the same intensity she'd shown in the security footage. When Tom turned, he caught her staring with an unsettling intelligence. "What are you up to, old girl?" he asked, kneeling beside her. Mittens blinked slowly, offering no answers, her purr rumbling like a perfectly timed diversion. The cat's food dish remained untouched since morning. Tom checked her water, refreshed her litter box, and secured every possible exit. Whatever mission his elderly cat had assigned herself, it ended tonight. Outside, shadows lengthened across the neighborhood. 3 puppies gone, 2 remained in Sarah's house. Tom watched Mittens from the doorway as she stretched, her movements now exaggerated with apparent stiffness, before settling into her bed with practiced nonchalance. The perfect picture of feline innocence, betrayed only by the damning evidence caught on camera. The clock struck midnight as Tom secured the final lock on his reinforced bedroom door. Mittens now designated a flight risk after 2 confirmed puppy extractions had been contained in what Tom considered a secure holding facility, his master bedroom, with all windows closed and locked. "This should keep you in place tonight," Tom muttered, observing Mittens calculating days from the center of the king-sized bed. The elderly feline maintained perfect stillness, a tactical patience that would have impressed military strategists. Despite arthritic limbs and advanced age, Mittens had demonstrated unprecedented extraction capabilities during the previous operations. Tom established his surveillance position on the living room couch, tactical flashlight and cell phone within immediate reach. The neighbor's property remained visible through his east-facing windows, allowing constant monitoring of Sarah's remaining puppies. The security perimeter had been bolstered with additional lighting and motion sensors, yet somehow Mittens had previously navigated these countermeasures with professional precision. At 2 o'clock hours, Tom's tactical awareness was compromised by unplanned unconsciousness. His surveillance operation failed as fatigue overcame operational readiness. The soft vibration of his phone at 3:47 jolted him back to alertness. "Tom, it's Sarah. Another puppy's gone. The 4th one." Her voice carried controlled tension through the phone's speaker. Tom immediately executed a rapid response protocol, moving toward his bedroom while maintaining verbal contact. "That's impossible. Mittens has been secured in my bedroom all night." The bedroom door remained locked, exactly as he had left it. Tom's confidence wavered as he input the entry code into his electronic deadbolt. The door swung open to reveal an unoccupied tactical position. The bed showed signs of recent feline presence, but Mittens had clearly executed another perfect extraction. "Breach confirmed," Tom reported grimly. "Mittens has escaped containment. I don't know how, but he's gone." Sarah's sigh carried through the phone connection. "I just don't understand how an elderly cat can keep outsmarting my security systems. These are top-of-the-line motion detectors. Maintaining visual surveillance on your remaining puppy." Tom assured her. "I'm establishing a perimeter around your property. Mittens will have to return to her base of operations eventually." Tom positioned himself in his darkened kitchen, maintaining line of sight to all potential approach vectors. The tactical clock on his microwave displayed 5:23 when he detected movement at the rear garden entrance. Mittens appeared, moving with practiced stealth despite the obvious weight of the puppy secured in her jaws. "Target acquired," Tom whispered to himself, watching the cat navigate the complex terrain with tactically sound movement patterns. The puppy, seemingly unharmed, remained compliant throughout the transport operation. Tom executed a flanking maneuver, attempting to intercept Mittens before the cat could disappear with his canine cargo. "Mittens, operation terminated," he called out, moving to cut off the primary escape route. The elderly cat froze momentarily, tactical assessment evident in his fixed gaze. Making a split-second decision, Mittens executed an evasive protocol, diverting through Mrs. Hendrick's flower beds and scaling a series of fences with the puppy still secured. Tom maintained pursuit for 3 blocks before losing visual contact near the abandoned Peterson property. The cat's extraction route revealed sophisticated planning and territorial knowledge that far exceeded Tom's expectations. "Target lost," Tom reported to Sarah via phone, breathing heavily from the unplanned tactical pursuit. "Mittens still has the puppy, but they both appeared unharmed. Her extraction skills are unprecedented." Dawn approached as Tom returned to his compromised base of operations, tactical questions mounting. How had an elderly cat defeated multiple security measures? Where were the puppies being taken? And most importantly, why? The mystery had just escalated to a level that required significant tactical reassessment. Shadows lengthened across the cul-de-sac as Tom approached Sarah's front door, his shoulders heavy with the burden of his confession. Mittens, his 15-year-old tabby, had somehow orchestrated the theft of 4 healthy Labrador puppies from under everyone's noses. Tom's hand hesitated before pressing the doorbell, the weight of neighborhood judgment already pressing down on him. "I can't believe a cat could do this," Sarah said, her voice tight with restrained emotion as she led Tom into her kitchen. "4 puppies, Tom. 4. And the security footage shows it's definitely Mittens." Tom nodded, studying the tactical situation with the precision of a mission planner. "I take full responsibility. We need to organize a systematic search and recovery operation immediately. Those puppies can't survive much longer without proper nutrition." Sarah's husband, Mark, joined them, spreading the neighborhood map across the kitchen table. "I've marked all the abandoned properties within a half-mile radius," he said, pointing to red circles inked onto the paper. 3 vacant homes, an old gardening shed behind the Peterson place, and the drainage culvert by the elementary school. Tom leaned forward, analyzing the terrain like a veteran strategist. "Mittens has arthritis in her back legs. She couldn't have transported the puppies farther than 3/4 of a mile, maximum. And she'd need shelter, somewhere protected from the elements." The doorbell rang, signaling the arrival of the 5 neighbors who had volunteered for the search party. Within minutes, the kitchen transformed into an impromptu command center, with Tom designating search quadrants and communication protocols. "Check under every deck, inside every shed," Tom instructed, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to crisis management. "These puppies are only 3 weeks old. They can't maintain body temperature without their mother or each other. Time is critical." Mrs. Abernathy, the retired biology teacher from across the street, studied the map with professional interest. "Cats often seek elevated, enclosed spaces when hiding treasures. We should prioritize locations with those characteristics." "Agreed," Tom said, checking his phone's battery life. "Everyone stay in text contact. Photo document any potential evidence immediately." The search teams deployed with precision, fanning out across the neighborhood. While Tom returned home for one more attempt to extract information from the uncooperative feline perpetrator, he found Mittens pacing near the cat door, tail twitching. With agitation, "What have you done with those puppies?" Tom asked, placing a bowl of premium salmon-flavored cat food on the floor. Mittens approached, sniffed once, then turned away, her behavior entirely atypical for a cat who typically devoured seafood with enthusiastic abandon. Tom studied his cat with growing concern. Many years of cohabitation had taught him to read Mittens' body language with reasonable accuracy. The cat wasn't displaying guilt or satisfaction, she was showing signs of distress. Pacing, refusing. Food, frequent glances toward the cat door. All indicated something beyond simple mischief. His phone buzzed with incoming messages from the search teams. No puppies in the drainage culvert. Nothing in the abandoned Hartwick place. No sign of puppy activity in the vacant construction site. Tom called Dr. Rivera, the veterinarian who had cared for Mittens since kittenhood. "Could this be some kind of maternal behavior?" he asked after explaining the situation. "Mittens was spayed as a kitten, and she's never shown interest in puppies before." "Fascinating," Dr. Rivera replied, professional interest evident in her voice. "There are documented cases of interspecies adoption among domestic animals, but typically with animals in distress. Has anything changed in your household recently? Anything that might trigger protective behavior?" Tom considered the question, while watching Mittens, who now sat staring intently at the cat door, tail twitching with increasing agitation. "Nothing's changed here, but Mittens has been disappearing more often lately, even before the puppy incidents." "That cat is trying to tell you something," Dr. Rivera concluded. "This behavior is purposeful, not random. I'd wager those puppies are alive, and Mittens has a compelling reason for taking them." As darkness fell completely, the search teams reported back to Sarah's kitchen, faces drawn with disappointment. No puppies. No clues. No explanation for how an elderly cat had managed to kidnap 4 healthy puppies without leaving a trace. Tom returned home, finding Mittens still positioned by the cat door, her entire body radiating tension. "We need a new approach," he muttered, reaching for his laptop. "If we can't find where you're hiding those puppies, old girl, I'm going to have to follow you there myself." The GPS tracker blinked steadily on Tom's phone screen as he established his surveillance position behind the row of hydrangea bushes that bordered his backyard. After 5 consecutive puppy extractions, Mittens' operational pattern had become predictable enough to anticipate, but still complex enough to evade conventional containment measures. Tonight's mission was clear. Track, follow, and discover the endpoint of Mittens' covert transport operations. "Target is on the move," Tom whispered into his digital recorder, documenting the mission as Mittens emerged from her tactical rest position beneath the porch swing. The elderly cat moved with surprising precision, her arthritic condition seemingly forgotten as she conducted her pre-mission reconnaissance, scanning the perimeter for potential obstacles or surveillance. Tom maintained his position, utilizing the cover of darkness and foliage to avoid detection. Mittens paused at the garden fence, ears pricked forward, conducting an audio sweep of the operational zone. Satisfied with the security assessment, she executed a flawless fence breach despite her advanced age, clearing the 6-foot barrier with a technique that would impress military instructors. Tom monitored the GPS signal, allowing a 30-second head start before initiating his pursuit. The tracker showed Mittens moving at a steady pace through the Hendersons' property, utilizing the shadow zones created by their ornamental shrubs. Tom followed at optimal distance, maintaining visual contact while minimizing detection risk. His tactical footwear ensured silent movement across multiple terrain types essential for successful surveillance operations. Subject is implementing evasive maneuvers, Tom recorded as Mittens suddenly altered course, doubling back through the Johnsons' vegetable garden before resuming her northeastern trajectory. This wasn't random movement. The feline was executing textbook counter-surveillance techniques, suggesting this wasn't her first covert operation. The GPS signal led toward Maple Street, then abruptly diverted through the Pattersons' property. Tom adapted his pursuit route, utilizing parallel paths to maintain operational security while keeping pace with the target. The cat's movement patterns revealed sophisticated spatial awareness, consistently selecting paths with minimal exposure to streetlights and residential security systems. 3 blocks from home, Mittens implemented another tactical deviation, accessing the storm drainage system briefly before emerging on Elm Avenue. Tom documented each movement, building a comprehensive operational map of the cat's extraction route. The complexity suggested weeks of prior planning and multiple reconnaissance missions, impressive for a creature supposedly dedicated to 16-hour sleep cycles. "Target has reached what appears to be the primary objective," Tom whispered, as the GPS signal stabilized near an abandoned garden shed behind the old Miller property. The dilapidated structure, overlooked during the neighborhood's recent development phase, provided perfect operational security, minimal civilian traffic, multiple escape routes, and sufficient cover from aerial observation. Tom established his observation position behind a weather-worn oak tree, employing his tactical monocular to assess the situation. Mittens approached the shed with heightened alert status, conducting a thorough perimeter check before accessing the small gap between warped floorboards and foundation. The strategic patience Tom had developed through countless fishing expeditions served him well during the 20-minute observation period. When confident the cat had completed whatever operations were underway inside, he advanced toward the structure using appropriate noise discipline techniques. Approaching the shed, Tom detected unexpected audio signatures. Not just the soft movements of a single cat, but multiple distinct sounds suggesting the presence of additional operatives. The mission parameters shifted instantly from surveillance to potential rescue operation. With a tactical light in hand, Tom positioned himself at the primary entry point, listening for any signs of threat. What he heard changed everything: the unmistakable sound of puppies, not in distress, but seemingly engaged in some form of social interaction with smaller, higher-pitched entities. The wooden door creaked as Tom executed his entry, tactical light illuminating the interior of what had appeared to be an abandoned structure, now revealing itself as something entirely different. It was not a hiding place, but rather a sanctuary. The beam of light exposed the true nature of Mittens' covert operation, and in that moment, Tom understood that his assessment of the situation had been fundamentally, critically incomplete. Abandoned garden shed loomed before Tom, its weathered boards casting long shadows in the fading daylight. His GPS tracker had led him on a winding path through the neighborhood, across 3 different properties, and finally to this forgotten structure, tucked behind old Mrs. Peterson's overgrown garden. The soft sound of movement inside confirmed he was in the right place. Tom approached cautiously, years of experience as a veterinary assistant guiding his movements. The rusty hinges protested as he eased the door open, just enough to peer inside. What he saw froze him in place. "My God," he whispered, eyes widening as they adjusted to the dim interior. All 5 of Sarah's missing Labrador puppies were alive, tumbling over each other in a corner of the shed. Their golden fur caught what little light filtered through a cracked window pane, but it wasn't their presence alone that stunned Tom, it was what they surrounded. In the center of the puppy pile lay a severely emaciated calico cat, her sides heaving with labored breaths. Nestled against her nearly translucent white belly were 3 tiny kittens, no more than a week old, their eyes still sealed shut. Puppies weren't prisoners. They were providing warmth, their larger bodies forming a living blanket around the struggling cat family. Mittens sat sentinel nearby, watching Tom with unblinking amber eyes. The elderly cat's message couldn't have been clearer. "I brought them here for a reason." "You old genius," Tom said softly, kneeling to get a better look. The mother cat raised her head slightly, too weak to hiss or flee. Her ribs protruded sharply beneath her dull coat, and Tom recognized the telltale signs of severe malnutrition. She had sacrificed everything to produce milk for her kittens, but it clearly wasn't enough. The puppies, meanwhile, showed no signs of distress or mistreatment. They wiggled and yawned, perfectly content in their role as surrogate siblings. One of them, the spotted male Sarah had named Charlie, was curled protectively around the smallest kitten, his body heat quite literally keeping the tiny creature alive. Tom reached for his phone without taking his eyes off the scene, fingers automatically dialing Sarah's number. "I found them," he said when she answered. "All 5, they're fine, but you need to see this. Bring blankets in your car. And call Dr. Rivera's emergency line. We need a vet immediately." He ended the call and eased closer to the makeshift family. Mittens permitted his approach but maintained her vigilant position. "How did you even know?" Tom asked his cat, who had always seemed so self-absorbed, so disinterested in anything beyond her food bowl and favorite sunning spot. Now he understood the late-night disappearances over the past weeks, the declining appetite, the unusual determination. Mittens had been caring for this mother cat long before the kittens arrived. The smallest kitten mewled weakly, a sound barely audible but desperate enough to prompt one of the puppies to nuzzle it gently. The mother cat watched this interaction with exhausted eyes before letting her head drop back down in fatigue. Tom conducted a quick visual assessment, his veterinary assistant training taking over. The mother cat was in critical condition, severe dehydration, malnourishment, possibly anemic. The kittens were underweight, but still had a fighting chance. If they got help soon, without the puppy's body heat, they likely would have perished days ago. And there was Mittens, his 15-year-old, arthritic cat who had somehow managed to carry puppies 3 times her weight across the neighborhood, all to save this dying family. Mittens, who had orchestrated an interspecies rescue operation with more precision and determination than many humans could muster. Outside, he heard the sound of Sarah's car pulling up to the curb. In moments, she would witness what Mittens had done, understand why her puppies had been stolen. The story was about to change from neighborhood mystery to something much more remarkable. Tom reached out slowly, gently stroking Mittens' head. "You're full of surprises, old girl," he murmured. "Full of surprises." The veterinarian's face told Tom everything he needed to know before she even spoke. Dr. Melissa Chun knelt beside the makeshift nest of blankets, her experienced hands gently examining the emaciated mother cat, while 5 Labrador puppies huddled nearby, whimpering. Softly, Mittens sat perched on an old wooden shelf, amber eyes never leaving the sickly kittens. "It's remarkable they're alive at all," Dr. Chun said, her voice quiet but clinical as she checked the smallest kitten's gums, the mother severely malnourished, dangerously dehydrated. She simply couldn't produce enough milk to sustain them. Tom watched from the shed doorway, Sarah standing beside him, her initial anger now replaced with a mixture of concern and astonishment. But why would Mittens bring the puppies here? "I don't understand." Dr. Chun carefully administered fluids to the mother cat through a subcutaneous injection before answering. "Warmth, companionship, survival." She gestured toward the improbable scene. Your elderly cat recognized a mother in distress and took the only action she could think of. Outside, the wail of approaching sirens announced the arrival of the local animal rescue team. Tom had made 3 calls after discovering the shed, first to Sarah, then Dr. Chun, and finally the rescue organization. The shed's owner, an elderly man who'd moved to a nursing home months ago, had given immediate permission to access his property once the situation was explained. "The puppies are actually what kept these kittens alive," Dr. Chen continued, methodically preparing medical supplies from her emergency kit. "Their body heat, their size, they've essentially been furry hot water bottles for these kittens. Without them, in these cold temperatures, double quotes, she didn't need to finish the sentence. Sarah stepped forward, kneeling to examine her puppies. Each appeared healthy, if somewhat confused by their surroundings. "I can't believe it," she whispered, watching as one puppy nuzzled a tiny kitten that couldn't have been more than 2 weeks old. "They're not even scared of them." "Puppies this young are remarkably adaptable," Dr. Chun explained, administering another injection to the mother cat. "They haven't learned to distinguish between species yet. To them, these are just smaller, strange-looking puppies." The animal rescue team arrived, bringing specialized equipment and transport carriers. 2 technicians moved with practiced efficiency, setting up a portable warming station for the kittens. Tom noticed how Mittens watched their every move, muscles tensed as if ready to intervene if necessary. "Your cat's actions are extraordinary," Dr. Chun told Tom while preparing a special formula for the kittens. "In my 20 years of veterinary practice, I've seen cats adopt other kittens, even different species occasionally, but I've never seen one strategically relocate larger animals to help smaller ones." Tom glanced at Mittens, seeing his pet in an entirely new light. "She's 15 years old. I thought she was just sleeping most days. I had no idea she was capable of this." "Cats are full of surprises," Dr. Chun replied, a rare smile breaking through her professional demeanor. "Based on his behavior, I suspect Mittens may have known this mother cat before. Perhaps they're related, or maybe they shared territory at some point." Sarah had gathered her puppies, checking each one thoroughly. She looked up at Tom, her initial anger completely transformed. "Your cat saved these kittens' lives by borrowing my puppies," she said, shaking her head in disbelief. "I don't even know how to process that." The shed buzzed with careful activity as the rescue team prepared to transport the mother cat and her kittens. Dr. Chun approached, Tom with the smallest kitten in her palm. "They'll need specialized care. The mother is too weak to nurse properly, and the kittens will require around-the-clock feeding." Tom didn't hesitate. "They can come home with me. Mittens already considers them her responsibility." As if understanding, Mittens jumped down from her perch, moving to Tom's side while keeping her eyes fixed on the kittens. "I think we've all witnessed something remarkable today," Dr. Chun said, watching as the rescue team carefully placed the mother cat in a carrier. "Something that reminds us there's more to these animals than we sometimes give them credit for." Outside, neighbors had gathered, drawn by the commotion of rescue vehicles. The story of Mittens and her puppy theft operation was already spreading, though now with a dramatically different ending than anyone had anticipated. Sirens faded into the distance as animal control vehicles pulled away from Tom's driveway, leaving behind a neighborhood transformed by the events of the past week. 5 Labrador puppies, now safely returned to Sarah's care, bounded across her front lawn while Tom stood watching from his porch, Mittens weaving figure eights between his legs with uncharacteristic energy. The elderly cat's mission, initially misunderstood as theft, had become the talk of Oakwood Estates. "Still can't believe that old cat of yours orchestrated this whole thing," Sheriff Jenkins remarked, closing his notebook as he prepared to leave. 20 years on the force, and I've never filed a report quite like this one." Tom nodded, watching Mittens carefully. "Military cats, Sheriff. They operate on a different level." The joke fell flat as Mittens had never served in any capacity beyond neighborhood mouser, but the cat's strategic planning had certainly demonstrated tactical thinking that impressed even the most skeptical observers. Dr. Abernathy's veterinary van pulled into Tom's driveway, equipment cases stacked neatly in the passenger seat. "The mother cat's vitals have stabilized," she announced, retrieving her medical bag. "Those kittens wouldn't have survived another 2 days without intervention." Tom followed the vet inside, where his living room had been transformed into a recovery ward. The emaciated mother cat lay in a specialized heated bed. 3 tiny kittens nestled against her side, their breathing synchronized and steady. Monitoring. Equipment beeped softly, tracking vital signs with medical precision. Severe malnutrition, dehydration, and early-stage organ failure, Dr. Abernathy reported, checking the 4 drip delivering fluids and nutrients. Your Mittens recognized the symptoms before any human noticed. That's extraordinary awareness. Mittens sat at attention nearby, eyes fixed on the mother cat with the focused vigilance of a seasoned guardian. The elderly cat had refused to leave the room for more than minutes at a time since the rescue operation. Timeline analysis suggests the mother cat had been stranded in that shed for approximately 11 days. Dr. Abernathy continued, reviewing her medical charts. Mittens began puppy retrieval operations on day 7, when the kitten's condition would have become critical. Sarah appeared in the doorway, cradling the smallest of her retrieved Labrador puppies. The rescue team found this little one trying to return to the shed, she explained. He seems bonded to those kittens. The puppy whined softly, straining toward the recovery bed. After careful veterinary assessment, Sarah placed him beside the kittens, where he immediately curled protectively around them. Interspecies bonding. Under stress conditions, Dr. Abernathy observed, documenting the behavior on her tablet. We're seeing increased body temperatures and improved respiration in the kittens when in contact with the puppies. It's exactly what Mittens anticipated. Analysis of Sarah's security footage, enhanced by technical specialists from the local university, had revealed Mittens' methodical approach. The elderly cat had conducted reconnaissance for 3 days before the first puppy retrieval, identifying the optimal entry points and timing. Look at this tactical pattern, Professor Wilson explained, spreading enhanced images across Tom's dining room table. The behavioral specialist had been called in to document the unprecedented case. Mittens established a secure transport route with multiple contingency paths. When you blocked the cat door, she identified an alternative exit within 40 minutes. Tom studied the images with growing appreciation. What had initially seemed like the bizarre behavior of an aging cat now revealed itself as a sophisticated rescue operation. She evaluated each puppy before selection, Professor Wilson continued, pointing to footage timestamps. Always chose the calmest one. Always used the correct carrying technique to minimize distress. Military working animals are trained for months to achieve this level of precision. Outside, neighbors gathered at the property line, bringing supplies for both sets of animals. The community that had initially organized search parties now coordinated care schedules, establishing a rotation for monitoring the recovering mother cat. Channel 7 wants to interview you tomorrow, Sheriff Jenkins mentioned, returning from his vehicle. The story's gone viral. People are calling it the puppy heist that saved lives. Mittens remained unconcerned with fame, performing regular checks of each kitten with methodical care. The mother cat watched with exhausted gratitude, too weak to provide care, but visibly comforted by Mittens' presence. Sarah approached Tom, emotion evident in her voice. I've been thinking. Once everyone's recovered, maybe we could set up a shared space between our yards. The puppies and kittens seem bonded now. Mittens would approve of that tactical solution, Tom agreed, watching his elderly cat guide the wayward puppy back to its position among the kittens. As evening approached, Dr. Abernathy conducted final checks before leaving overnight monitoring. Equipment in place. I've documented dozens of remarkable animal behaviors throughout my career, she said, packing her stethoscope. But this level of calculated intervention, identifying exactly what those kittens needed and finding a solution, it demonstrates cognitive abilities we don't fully understand. Tom watched Mittens settle into sentry position near the recovery bed, the elderly cat's posture attentive yet relaxed now that the mission had been successfully completed. The neighborhood that had awakened to a puppy theft crisis a week earlier now settled into night with a profound appreciation for the extraordinary capacity of one determined cat whose tactical brilliance and compassion saved lives against impossible odds. Veterinary reports confirmed what Tom had suspected. Mittens' tactical intervention had saved all 3 kittens from certain death. Dr. Melissa Chun examined the mother cat's recovery charts with clinical precision, her expression reflecting professional satisfaction at the improving vital signs. "Remarkable recovery trajectory," she observed, adjusting the feline's medical chart. Nutrient levels stabilized, weight up 11% since initial assessment, milk production normalized within standard parameters. Tom studied the monitoring equipment with focused attention while Mittens maintained vigilant watch from an elevated position nearby. The elderly cat's posture remained alert, tactical awareness undiminished despite the secure environment. Operational status reports on the kittens showed consistent improvement, all vital signs stabilized, weight gains tracking within optimal parameters. "Integration phase proceeding according to protocol," Sarah noted, documenting the supervised interaction session between puppies and kittens. The Labrador puppies demonstrated remarkable restraint for their age, their movements calibrated to accommodate the smaller kittens' mobility limitations. Mittens oversaw each interaction with veteran precision, tactical positioning allowing for immediate intervention if required. "Never witnessed cross-species coordination at this level," Dr. Chun remarked, studying the animal's synchronized movements. "Your cat implemented a complex rescue operation with multiple extractions, established a secure medical facility, and maintained operational security throughout the mission. Military working animals rarely achieve this level of autonomous tactical execution." Through the observation window, Tom watched as Alpha Sarah's designation for the first puppy Mittens had appropriated positioned himself as a thermal support unit for the smallest kitten. Surveillance footage from the custom-installed monitoring system documented each interaction, building a comprehensive assessment database for future analysis. Local news affiliates requesting access for feature coverage, Kevin Reynolds reported. The community outreach coordinator checking his tablet. Current engagement metrics show unprecedented social response. Viewer reach anticipated at 4.6 million within initial 48-hour deployment window. Tom maintained operational security protocols, limiting media access to predetermined timeframes and controlled environment sectors. "Recovery operations remain the priority," he affirmed, checking Mittens' status. The elderly cat continued monitoring the integration exercise, her experience evident in how she assessed each puppy-kitten interaction. "Construction team confirms completion of the joint environmental enclosure," Sarah announced, reviewing the structural specifications on her tablet. "Reinforced perimeter, climate-controlled interior zones, multiple elevation options for tactical advantage." The custom-designed space incorporated advanced monitoring systems while maintaining a natural environment, profile optimized for rehabilitation operations and integrated species training. Mittens performed routine inspections of the new enclosure, tactical assessment evident in her methodical examination of entry points, elevation platforms, and secure zones. Her approval was demonstrated through standardized operational procedures, scent marking key positions and establishing preliminary patrol routes. "Community support network fully activated," Kevin confirmed, coordinating the volunteer rotation schedule. "Resource allocation secured for the next 6 operational cycles. Medical supplies, nutritional resources, and specialist support all confirmed and deployed according to protocol." The mother cat, now named Sierra by the medical team, demonstrated improved mobility during supervised rehabilitation exercises. Her nutritional intake chart showed consistent progress, and bonding assessments with Mittens documented positive social reinforcement patterns. The specialized veterinary team maintained detailed documentation, building a case study on interspecies intervention protocols. Deployment of Phase 2 integration procedures authorized. Dr. Chun confirmed after reviewing the latest biometric assessments. All subjects have achieved required baseline parameters for expanded interaction protocols. Tom watched as Mittens supervised the first full integration session. All 5 puppies and 3 kittens engaging in coordinated play activities under the watchful eyes of both adult cats. Sierra remained in a supervisory position, her strength not yet fully restored, but her maternal monitoring systems fully operational. Mission success parameters exceeded on all fronts, Sarah observed. Documentation tablet capturing real-time assessment data. The once competing households had established a joint operation center, resources deployed with maximum efficiency toward a common objective. Evening security protocols activated automatically as Tom conducted final status checks. The monitoring system continued silent observation, infrared capabilities tracking the sleeping forms of puppies and kittens nestled together in a tactical formation that maximized thermal efficiency, all while maintaining optimal security posture. Mittens completed her final perimeter check before joining Tom at the observation post. Her mission complete, but her vigilance undiminished. What had begun as a tactical extraction operation had transformed into something unprecedented. A cross-species family unit, built on mutual protection protocols and coordinated resource allocation. Tom scratched behind Mittens' ears, the one gesture that consistently penetrated her professional demeanor. "Mission accomplished, old soldier," he whispered. "Above and beyond the call of duty,